basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Donald Trump has just posted something on Truth Social about what's going on with the ceasefire. What have we learnt?
Well, in the last 2 or 3 minutes, he's from Air Force One. He's put up on his Truth Social account that Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing, quote unquote, a friendly plane wave to Iran. No one will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. So his angry outburst at the White House earlier this morning when he was on his way to the NATO summit seems to have done the trick. At least that's what he's saying at the moment.
And they're going to give a friend. Well, who could mind a friendly plane wave? I mean, it does sort of. So I'm not going to ask you to sort of to foresee the future, but it does sound like the sort of thing he'd say, and under the assumption that what he's said is going to happen, which doesn't necessarily always connect with whether or not it's going to happen.
Correct. I mean, I think that message there that he sent suggests that he's had some sort of communication with Israel. At 10 to 7 this morning, he put out another truth, in suggesting in no uncertain terms that Israel should stop its latest bombing raid in Iran. He was apoplectic this morning at the White House after a night in which the ceasefire that was brokered last night seems to have been broken on both sides. He seems especially angry with Israel. And it seems that in the sort of 10 minutes or so since his appearance at the White House, the Israelis have agreed that the strike won't go ahead, but we'll have to see if that comes to fruition.
Well, we have a clip of him speaking outside the White House. Let's listen to that now.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
I mean, it's not often you have to bleep out the words of the US president, Alistair. I mean, that sounds like a really, really cross Donald Trump there.
He was really angry, and I think that came right at the end of about a 6-minute interaction with reporters. He went after the news networks for a little while. Donald Trump is very good in front of the camera. He's very good at getting his message across. That was tempered this morning just by how angry he was. I think he's woken up early because he's flying over to the Netherlands for the NATO summit today. He'd learned that the ceasefire brokered last night has been, or at least the two sides have carried on fighting in ahead of the ceasefire deadline, and he is really angry.
It's been very, very hard to call this. I mean, obviously, look, the ceasefires can be messy when they begin. It's been very, very hard to call this morning whether he has, in fact, done something sort of, an astonishing piece of statecraft. If he has indeed, backed Israel to that point, achieved the denuclearization of Iran, and then brought about a ceasefire turning on a sixpence immediately afterwards, or whether he's just doing what he always does and claiming to have achieved 1,000%, while he's perhaps achieved about 70. Which way would you call that?
It's difficult to say. I think that a lot of the proof will be whether or not Iran's nuclear sites have been permanently disabled, and I don't think we'll know that for a little while. The attacks on Saturday very much telegraphed as a one-off, as a way of destroying these sites at Fordow and the others that have the potential to make Iran's nuclear bombs. If Iran's nuclear bomb threat is now gone, if those sites have been destroyed, if Iran would have to start from scratch again, I think that you could probably call this a great success for Donald Trump, but I don't think we'll know that for some time.
Pakistan has said it would like to nominate Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. How's that looking?
I think that's something that Donald Trump wants. I mean, he said that in the past, that he feels as though he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. And Pakistan, I think, will nominate him because of the temperature being taken out of a potential conflict between India and Pakistan earlier this year. And I think Donald Trump will. He's going to NATO today. He'll be at the dinner tonight. I think he'll see that as a bit of a victory lap. For years, European leaders have talked about knocking out Iran's nuclear threat. He'll claim to have done it in an evening on Saturday, and that he's the great sort of peacemaker. Of course, the other problem for Donald Trump is, and the White House hasn't talked about this publicly for weeks now, is that there's still a war raging in Europe between Ukraine and Russia that he promised to put an end to within a day of being re-elected. So the problems are still there. But I think if this deal now holds and Iran's nuclear threat is gone, then I think Donald Trump can point to this as a huge foreign affairs victory.
He doesn't always look wildly happy attending meetings of NATO. You seem to get the sense that everybody's sort of bickering with him all the time. Do you think this time is going to be a bit different? This time, he's, as you say, going to be treating it like a victory lap?
Well, I mean, he'll be there, I think, to lap up the adulation. And I think he's also got a message as well for the NATO leaders, which, America and Israel have fought the threat of Iran. He'll present it as America single-handedly destroyed Iran's nuclear capabilities. It's up to Europe to step up, and he'll be talking about 5% contributions of GDP to NATO and to defence, and that America won't defend European countries if they don't do that. So I think, yes, you're right. He doesn't like these things. He doesn't like European leaders. He doesn't like hanging around in Europe at these summits. But I think he'll lap up the adulation today, and he's got a stern message as well for some of the European leaders.
Look, speaking of Iran, Alistair, you've got a story in the Times looking at the threat of attacks by Iranian sleeper cells within the United States. Tell us about this and what the concern is.
Well, there's a fear that the response from the Iranians to the US strikes on Saturday won't be a sort of a half-hearted attempt to strike a US airbase in the Middle East overnight. It will, in fact, come in the days, weeks and months ahead. There are claims, certainly by people within the administration close to them, that there are Iranians sponsored by the Iranian government in the US having crossed the border under the Biden administration, who are primed to conduct terrorist attacks in the US, or perhaps cyber attacks on American infrastructure and companies, and that will be the real response. The history between Donald Trump and Iran is quite a difficult one. You'll recall in 2020, the Americans killed Qasem Soleimani, a senior officer in the Revolutionary Guard, who was very close to the supreme leader. The Iranians have promised revenge for that. So there's a fear in America that the Iranian response, rather than immediate, will come later in the form of American terror attacks on US soil.
And is it thought that Donald Trump might pay a political cost if that happens? Will people begin to question his actions on the world stage if that leads to sort of that kind of horrendous action on American soil?
Yeah, Donald Trump doesn't have to stand for election again, so any political cost of Donald Trump will be limited. But there are already members of his own movement, his own MAGA movement, America First movement, who are hugely critical of the decision on Saturday to attack Iran. And were the Iranians to respond with some sort of attack inside the US, and that would lead to the deaths of civilians, I think it would only amplify those voices in America and make the case that the US shouldn't be involved in foreign wars all the stronger for those people.